Hey everybody, welcome to Spill the Novelty, where three girlies shout into the void about our latest book, hot takes, and obsessions. I'm Abby.
I'm Maddie.
And I'm Kaylee.
And this week we're spilling the tea about the newly popular book, Godkiller by Hannah Kaner. Full disclaimer, we did not really like this book, but if you liked it, that's totally cool. It just wasn't for us. So we're not trying to hate on it. Like what you like, but just know that going in.
Proceed with caution.
Yes.
This is not our faith.
All right. So we can just jump right in. So in the prologue, we get Kissen's backstory. She was almost sacrificed to the god Heseth, but her father ends up sacrificing himself to the god Osirisan to try to save her. But Kissen doesn't really want to be saved, and her dad still dies anyway. And then at the end of the prologue, we get a newspaper graphic calling for Godkillers. So this was one of the most intense prologues that I've read personally. I was on the edge of my couch reading it. I also felt like it was a creative way of showing us how people were sacrificing other people to Heseth, and also like kind of giving Kissen a reason to hate the gods, which is obviously important because she ends up becoming a god killer. But that being said, I do feel like the book went downhill after the prologue. But we could talk about that later.
A strong start.
Start. Yeah, I agree.
Strong start. Yeah, I agree. I was impressed with the prologue, and it really made me excited for the book. I will say, foreshadowing for what was to come, I definitely got confused in parts of the prologue, but I just kind of wrote that off as like, all right, that's fine. You know, a lot of information, we're jumping right in. So I had to reread some parts a couple times, but yeah, overall prologue, it was pretty emotional, kind of graphic, which was surprising. We're not normally thrown into stuff like that right off the bat. So yeah, good start for sure.
Yeah, I thought it was a good prologue. I did like, just for nitpicky things, I wish it would have just started with her being taken to the pyre instead of with the like 5 paragraphs of like, here are the names of all my siblings and what the names mean, and here's like this god and this backstory, and then there's this other god. Like, I feel like if you're gonna start us in the middle of that action, then just do it that way and give us the little pieces of information as it goes, because you know, as a reader, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm getting presented with a lot of names, a lot of information, I gotta remember all this, and it really turns out like the names of her siblings don't matter at all, you know, like the god names matter, but you get them through the rest of the book. So it's like, we didn't have to take up that like super valuable real estate of the first 5 paragraphs doing all of that and kind of like confusing readers or like presenting them with all that information. But once we actually got into the action, and you know, she has to break away, and then she has to choose like which of her family to like save, you know, that stuff is all good stuff. So it was good action. Once we got into it, it was good.
Yeah, definitely. The fire and everything was pretty powerful stuff. It was intense.
Yeah, it was intense.
Yeah.
Did y'all notice, by the way, like when she's breaking out of her the ropes or whatever, it says like she uses her sharp teeth to da. And I was like, does she have pointy teeth?
Yeah.
Like,
that's a great point. I thought
that. It was because she was so young that like a kid. Like when you're I don't know, when you're young, aren't your teeth a little pointier? I don't know.
Maybe not.
Maybe. I don't think so.
I don't know.
Okay, but puppy teeth are really sharp. So like maybe are humans the same way? I'm not around enough children to know, but I thought I was envisioning her as like full pointy teeth, like, because it's presented that she's like the daughter of this like sea god essentially. So I was like,
this is what
okay,
we do for reading
she's like
too
a
much
fish.
Vampire stuff.
True. I'm like, please tell me she's a vampire.
He's the god. We've already jumped right in.
Oh, man,
that's funny. That's hilarious. Well, after the prologue, we continue to follow her character too, and this is the first of a handful. I guess it's only 3, right? 4 POVs we get.
Only
so
4.
We start. Only 4, just 4, just 4 POVs. But so we continue to follow her character, and we get some of her backstory. We know that she grew up on the streets and was essentially auctioned off to work later on. She had this pretty hard upbringing, to keep it short and sweet. But then she becomes a god killer who is paid to kill gods upon requests. So nobles hire her, other people hire her, and that's what she does. I'll say that initially, kind of like right out the gate, I was really excited about her character. I really wanted to like her a lot. For anyone who's read Gideon the Ninth or has heard of that book, I had some of the same vibes. This kind of like badass, queer, funny bounty hunter with a soft spot and kind of like a softer side. So I thought that that's what we were getting, and I was definitely excited for that for sure. But unfortunately, I don't really think that love for her kind of maintained throughout the book. I didn't feel that there was enough character growth and development. I was excited for her, but she didn't really deliver for me. I don't know. That's how I felt. But
yeah, I feel the same way. I think she was set up for success, but she wasn't developed beyond, you know, the little description on the package. It was just kind of like, here she is, she's a bounty hunter, she's a badass, but she kind of has a soft spot for this little girl because she was a little girl once. And like, there you go, that's kissing. Take it or leave it. And it's like, okay. And I also don't really understand why, like, so she's a god killer. This is her full-time occupation. She actively resents gods. Like, this girl has no love lost for God. She constantly talks about how greedy they are, they're no good, blah blah blah. And then the next characters, which we'll get to, she immediately acts out of character for that premise when she encounters them. So it's like right off the bat, she's not acting the way that we're kind of like presented with the way that she should act. So it's just very inconsistent, and it doesn't make a ton of sense. And I think that's why, even though she had such a strong start, she ends up feeling pretty like foundationless, because she just kind of is like passive almost to the story.
Yes.
That's a good point. For me, there were just a lot of missing pieces. Like, we hear that she's a god killer, but we don't really know how she became a god killer. There was no like training. We don't even know if she's a really good god killer. We assume that she is based on what other people say, but like, how did she become a good god killer? Like, she's 26. There's a big gap there from when she was like growing up on the streets and then sold to Marmee or Mamie or whatever. But we don't learn how she became the god killer. And so I don't know. For me, there were just a lot of missing pieces, a lot of missing backstory. I agree that she had potential, but that's all there was for me, was potential. Like, I just didn't care about her. There was no unique dialogue. Like, she didn't really have a personality outside of like her character archetype or whatever. So I just, she missed.
We get like literally, to your point, Kaylee, the tiniest sliver of like training, because she says she was traveling with like this old man Pato, who was a god killer. But for me, it falls apart because I don't really understand the context behind like why there are god killers before Aaron takes over as king and he decides like all gods need to go. So you have this like old man that she says like taught her the ways, but like, how did he know the ways if they weren't killing gods for 70 years? I mean, maybe they were, but I don't know. There wasn't enough context. It just was given like, it felt very much like, hey, Hannah, how did she become a god killer? Oh, I'll say she got trained by this old guy. Cool, checkbox. You know, like, there's nothing more than
where it's
that.
like, how did she meet him?
Right.
Like,
what are the memories?
What was the training like?
Right, exactly. Like, there was just none of that.
Well, and I love like a badass character, like a bounty hunter with like a soft spot. Like, I like that kind of trope and that idea. And I think we've talked about too, like really enjoying like the found family trope. And I think that that's what you're trying to get here, right? With like her and Inara, who I know we'll talk about in a minute. But I think too, for her to like give up so many of her values, though, as a bounty hunter, for her to be, even if she's like poking fun at Sketty, like she kind of ends up trusting him a lot more than I think she should. So we'll get more into that, but it doesn't feel like she sticks to some of those like values too that you would think she would. Again, like you said, Maddie, like she's a god killer, like she hates them, like deeply hates them. And I think that she gives a lot of that up throughout the book in the name of like being sweet to Inara. So I don't know. I just didn't feel like she stuck to her kind of character as much as I would like to, but
right.
Yeah. And so speaking of Inara, this is this little girl. She's 12 years old, and Inara has acquired a little god named Sketty, okay? And she just woke up one morning and he was like in the bed with her, and they kind of have this weird connection where they can't go like physically too far from each other or they hurt. And because gods are basically like banned throughout the kingdom, Inara doesn't really have an outlet to find out information about gods. So naturally, her instinct is to go find a god killer.
Right, as one
does. That's what you should do.
Completely tracks. And so she goes to find Kissin while Kissin is there after killing a god. And she's like, hey, look at this little rat that I have. It's a god. And Kissin is like, yo, that's a god for real, for real. And so then they start traveling together for some reason. And Sketty seems harmless at first, but then he's the god of little white lies, which seems cute, but then eventually it gets twisted into much more dark potentials for sure.
Yeah,
right.
Definitely. Yeah, and I think too, so a couple of things. One, I just thought about the fact that she wakes up and he's there.
Yeah.
Like when they first get down. I would have panicked. Like, what the hell? I'm sorry. You mean to tell me this little thing, this little like rat looking thing is in my bed? Unless it's really cute.
Well, it has antlers.
I pictured him like a mini deer because he has antlers.
Yeah.
I still would have probably panicked. But she
was 7 at the time. So okay. I can at least be like, okay, when I was 7, I was probably more likely to like my best friend, you know, like an imaginary friend. But I definitely also would have immediately gone to my mom and been like, there's a rat in my bed, you know, like, look at this guy.
You mean to tell me she wasn't going to tell her mom?
And she kept it a secret for all 5 of those years or whatever.
Literally.
Like,
not even for my safety, but because I run my mouth. I would have been like, Mom, I have to tell you.
How do you not slip up like, oh, me and Sketty the other day went blah, blah, blah. Who's Sketty?
Yeah, when you're a literal child, like how do you not tell one of your friends or like, I don't know, like a teacher or something?
You just pull the imaginary friend card. You pull the like imaginary friend, like, oh, that's just it's just my little imaginary friend. But like that's not gonna keep working when you're no longer 7 years old. So
no, and I think
you guys want to know something.
Go ahead, Kaylee.
Something that killed me.
Yes, I do.
Was when they were at the bar and Sketty just pops out. And it's like nobody sees him
in front of God and everybody. Literally.
Well, he says the thing though, doesn't he? I agree, but doesn't he say the thing where he's like, "You do not see me." Yeah, you don't see me. You don't see me. So I guess he's able to like manipulate. True. I think that's what he does. He pulls his little like, "You don't see me."
Yeah,
little
makes sense too. Whatever. So like, because Inara and Sketty are connected, Inara can see basically like people's auras, like their emotions spiking. Mm-hmm. And so she can kind of like read people's intentions in a way because she can see kind of like when they're lying or what they're feeling when they're saying what they're saying. Except sometimes they say that she can't. So like her mom emotions are hidden and Kissin's emotions are hidden until they aren't, because in both times they're like, ooh, we can't read the emotions of this X person, and then like one paragraph later it's like her emotions spiked and it's orange, and I'm like, what are you saying? You can't read it. It's just that like the surface level is they're vibing like.
And I thought at one point, because I noticed the same thing, and I was like, so can they or can't they, or can she or can't she see this? But at one point I was like, okay, maybe this is when we realized that Sketty's starting getting into her mind a lot and is trying to control her. I was like, oh, maybe this is manipulation. Like he doesn't want her to see Kissin's emotions and stuff. But I don't think that's what actually happened, because I was like, oh, maybe he was controlling her ability to see her mom's emotions for some reason, because Sketty knows something she doesn't, or Sketty's controlling her ability to see Kissin's emotions because he doesn't want her to like begin to trust her, because he doesn't trust her and she's actually really sweet and trustworthy, or allegedly, whatever. But I don't think that's actually what was happening. No. I think it was just an inconsistency.
I wish that was what was happening. But Kissin even says like she blocks Sketty out or whatever. Like she has like the mental barriers up.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, I think it's just a worse version of that. But too, like with her mom. So I don't know if you guys caught onto this or if I'm just, doing my normal conspiracy theory thing. But there's one point in the book where they talk about how her mom learned like pirate language, which is sign, what they call hand speak for the pirates. And that she was like, kind of implied that she was like traveling with pirates. And then the thing with Sketty is he doesn't remember like where he came from or whatever. He woke up basically with amnesia. And so he's like, damn, I guess this 12-year-old is all I got. And so later on in the story, he starts to kind of like get shown some memories of him like flying above a ship. And he's like, I'm not like a water god. Like, who would be on a ship that needs little white lies? Blah, blah, blah. And it's like pirates, first of all.
Oh.
Pirates would.
True.
And it's also kind of implied that another god connected him to Inara. Yes. For some reason. And there's kind of like another god that's implied to be present like in this memory that he's kind of seeing. That tells him like to fly away and run or whatever. And so I think whatever god Inara's mom worshipped or had a relationship with, they were in cahoots with Sketty. And so I think Inara's mom knew about Sketty the whole time. And was just like, I need my daughter to have like a protector or something like that. Anyways, I don't know.
That's interesting. No, I think that's a good point because I had drawn the connection of thinking that it was the mother's god or something like that that had sent Sketty. I hadn't made the pirate connection and the little white lies, which is that's smart. I think that's probably right because there's a second book too, right?
There is.
I think there are going to be like 5.
Yeah.
Oh, damn. Okay. Yeah, I bet that's right, Maddie. Another dub, another Maddie conspiracy dub.
Let's go. Just tack it on.
Yeah. More dubs.
One thing that I hated actually was how Sketty, he's like, when he's like possessing Inara, everyone's like super pissed about it at first, including Kissin, but then they just get over it. Like they get over it. Even Kissin gets over it. Who hates gods? And it's like, dude, what?
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. So like for context for anyone who hasn't read the book, this little dude realizes that he can start taking over Inara like physically and like verbally talk through her, and he justifies it to himself as like doing it for her good, that he's making the better choice that she can't make. But then he also does it to Elo, who we'll talk about in a second, but is someone else that is traveling with them. And so he convinces them basically to work against Kissin because he doesn't like Kissin because Kissin is a Godkiller, and he is a god. To do the math.
Right.
And so he like, it results in Elo and Kissin getting in this real fight where like one of them could definitely die, and then Inara she severs the connection for whatever reason, and then he's just like, oopsie, sorry, I got a little out of hand. And they're like, it's okay. And Kissin's like, I actually knew the whole time that it was you. But carry on.
Yeah, that part was so weird and so not fleshed out. Like,
no, it was so weird.
My problem with that too, so when Kissin says that she like figured that it was Sketty or whatever, when she's first meeting Sketty and everything, you can very quickly see she doesn't like him. Again, she's Godkiller. She's distrustful. She thinks he probably should be killed. But like once she learns that he has taken over Inara for that period of time, and she suspects that he had been doing it, like, ma'am, the king or the god of little white lies has just taken her, like possessed her basically. Right. Like, how are you not going to be more angry? Like, you should be infuriated. Like,
yeah, I expected her to kill him instantly.
Care about Inara, like she does.
Yeah, and then it's like same day she lets Inara go off into the woods alone with Sketty, and even Elo is like, "Are you sure that's wise?" And
she's like, "Are we?" Yeah.
So, yeah, I agree with you earlier when you were saying her character is just not consistent, like, the choices she makes. Like, even just letting Inara go out and go into the woods by herself, period, that knowing that there are demons, like, around following them, things like that. It's just so out of character. Like,
it's very weird. It's very weird, and it's very unclear, and in a way that, like, so later on in the book, too, we meet another god that Kissen is, like, she's pretty friendly with this god in particular, but it's presented in a way that makes sense because this god is pretty much non-violent and, like, is very, very powerful and, like, helps Kissen out in many ways. And it's also implied that, like, Kissen's mentor had a similar relationship with this god because he had a boon from this god. And so, like, in that sense, okay, she can have a relationship with a god and it not be out of character because she's using that as a lever to do her other work, in a way that her relationship with Skedi just does not make sense at all. She has no past build up with this creature. It doesn't track at all.
No.
Yeah.
We didn't vibe with it. I wanted to, but so along with Skedi and Kissen,
Inara,
no, Skedi and Inara, yes, sorry. We also have, I'm losing track of all the names. We also have Elo. So he is a baker and was previously an important knight for the king, and he is still friends with the king. Should have been lovers. Anyway, friends. Yeah. History will say they were roommates. Yeah.
They were roommates.
Whatever. I was like, this is, come on. Anyway, so he's on the journey to Blinn Raiden to find the cure for a curse put on the king that is going to kill him. So he's also along for the ride.
Yeah. I don't know. I found myself liking Elo a little bit, mostly because Maddie texted us and compared him to PETA. And who doesn't love PETA, you know? So once I heard that comparison, I couldn't unhear it. I was like, all right, this man is PETA. So I was like, okay, I like him. He's fine. He's fine.
I mean, the way that Elo is written, I don't know how you could not like him. He's not fleshed out enough to be unlikable. He's your out of the box, you know, extremely loyal to a fault knight, you know, guided by honor, and like, okay, he sings and he bakes. Okay, nice. You know, like
it's a little bit of humor, like a little, like when he sings that song and the bar that
they call it a naughty song.
The naughty song in the tavern. You're like, oh, Elo, going kind of wild here. Whoa,
yeah, this 30-year-old man is being a little raunchy.
Yeah.
I think with Elo, I really wanted him to explore his feelings for Eren, because I think Elo's in love with Eren. I think Elo may not know that, but the man he's down bad, okay? And,
for sure.
You know, I don't know. And then he's got this whole curse thing that he's gonna go. I also thought it was weird. So in the beginning, they're like, you know, it's presented that they're besties, and he works with Eren for like 2 decades as like his right-hand man until Eren becomes king and decides that gods are lame. And then Elo's like, I kind of am down with the gods, so I'm gonna have to peace out. And then years and years later, after Elo is a baker, Eren just shows up and he's like, I'm dying. And Elo's like, got it, back on the service squad. And Eren is like, let me come with you. And Elo's like, no. And Eren's like, all right, bet. And I was like, that's kind of weird. That seems a little weird. It seems like Eren should be going along with us. I don't know.
Yeah. Or it was just a weird interaction. Yeah. Like, I don't know. I'm
mad at myself for not seeing the whole Eren betrayal thing coming, because like if I would have read that a second time, I would have been like, okay, that was weird. Like, he just shows up out of nowhere and then is like, oh no, I'm sick. And then,
I was surprised by that. Yeah. That one definitely got me. Oh,
I was surprised too. But because we don't get
girl
enough
style, I'm sick.
Yeah, we just don't get enough of like Eren to even know anything about him to consider that he could be, you know, betraying them. I really think a lot of these problems could have been solved by us getting memories or little tidbits as we go through these 4 POVs. All this backstory we have access to. They just don't ever think about it. And so Aaron, the betrayal did surprise me, but I also didn't really care because I didn't have any feelings for Aaron. You know what I mean?
Because even when they think about it, like they'll think on memories, but I feel like they recycle through the same ones over and over again. So it's like the exact moment when like they're on the battlefield, which I do get that with Elo, it's pretty clear throughout the book that he like struggles a lot with like anxiety and like PTSD essentially from the big battle and whatnot. But we don't really get, I don't think, like much memories beyond that to really build up their
you're telling me that like we can repeat "I am the god of white lies" 55 times throughout the book, but you couldn't give us a single memory outside of Elo's? Like that just does not add up.
It's true. I will say one positive thing with Elo. I really liked that in his chapter, he's like talking about how like nice baking is, which I didn't read any of that, to be clear. I thought it was boring. But then you get to the point it's like gods, he was bored. I thought that was funny. I really liked that initial angle that she was taking with his character, where it's like he's doing the safe thing, he's doing this thing he enjoys, but he misses the fast pace bop 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 of being a soldier. And I wish she would have taken it more in that direction. Because I think that's a really interesting angle for a character where they're like, he knows he should be happy where he is, but maybe that's actually why he takes the mission, you know? Maybe we could move away from this like weird tacky loyalty thing, and it's like he's like, damn, I would love to go fight a god. I'm so bored making flatbreads, you know?
That's what I had kind of noted when I was going through it, is like I think I would like him a lot more if he was doing things more out of passion rather than honor. And that's why like I had assumed that he and Aaron like were definitely a thing, or at least even if it's unrequited, like it's one-sided, even though again, it didn't seem unrequited. It seemed like they were both into it and it was a thing.
Pretty into it.
Yeah. Like if he was doing this out of like this like deep love for Aaron and like he wanted to be back out there, like he had to fight for him, something, I don't know. Just like, instead of just like, oh, I'm going to do it because I should. Like,
also,
don't do something you shouldn't do. Okay, leave the bakery because you want to fight. Yeah,
you want to fight. You want blood. Like it's I'm into that. And also, there were so many moments that were supposed to be very like emotionally heavy hitting for his character that because there wasn't the appropriate buildup, they just didn't land. Like when he meets Benjen, I think is his name, the like soldier in Glen Raiden that he trained personally, and Benjen immediately chooses violence and is like, you abandoned me, you traitor, blah, blah, blah. Like, you're trash. And then Elo's like, oh, that makes me feel sad. But, like, that's it. I don't know. It just didn't. I know I was supposed to feel something, but I just didn't. I was like, knock him out and move on, you know?
Yeah.
One other thing that I hated about Elo. Sorry, this is just turning into a rage read at this point. But one thing that I hated about Elo was how he would be like, oh, I'm not going to tell you. Like, that's a secret. And then, like, literally a page later, he would be like, okay, I was a knight for the king. And then another time he's like, okay, I can't tell you why I'm here in Glen Raiden. It's a secret. And then he was like, okay, it's because the king is like really sick and I need to help him.
Relatable king. I'd be like, actually, wait.
Can I tell you?
Can I tell you? If I tell you, can't tell anyone else. It's just between me. Okay.
And also something about Elo that's weird. So they find out so they're on a journey. They're on a pilgrimage, basically, with other pilgrims that are like going to see gods for different boons. And so they're on the DL and they keep getting attacked by demons out of the shadows, and the demons are being sent by a god to get somebody, but they don't know who it is. Who is it? Haha. And then it is revealed in like the most anticlimactic way that Elo is the one that has the curse put on him, that the demons are chasing Elo. It's literally like Kissen notices this gigantic, well, I pictured it as gigantic God mark on his back when they're bathing. And she's like, yo, dude, what is this? And he's like, oh, my shoulder has been hurting. I just thought it was my wound. Like, and and then he's like, who could have done this? And they're like, oh, he's like, oh, my shoulder did get touched by so-and-so once. And they're like, he's not a god. He couldn't have done it. And he's like, that must have been him. And
and we're just supposed to accept that. Like,
yeah, it's never fully explained. They say so many times, why are the characters arguing with each other if we're not going to get a reason? So many times he's like, it was this person. And Kissen is like, a god had to be there to do that to you. And he's like, so true, bestie. And then they move on.
Just move on.
Yeah.
I don't
know.
Okay.
Why, like, the other thing too, so is it caravan? Is that how they say it?
I think it's supposed to be a play on caravan, which is like
to
travel.
Yeah.
Okay.
Caravan is the one who supposedly puts this curse on him, right? By putting his hand on his shoulder and like the bar or whatever. And my thing too is like, because he didn't trust Elo because Elo's a knight, and he suspects that he's there to beef with the remaining gods, I'm assuming, right? So like my thing is though, like, this is worthy of a curse. Like, we're in a bar. We could have fought this one out, right? Like, get your gang to,
or just not allow him on the pilgrimage. Like, why do we gotta sentence the other pilgrims to death?
Yeah, true. But like,
that's how I interpreted it, as they were a sacrifice to the god. That's why I interpreted that part.
Okay.
I guess that makes sense.
That does make sense. I was like, what happened to a good old fashioned fight?
You're so right. There's like a line that I think it's in an Elo POV, and it says like oh, I get now that the god and caravan were putting this curse on me so that I couldn't make it to complete my mission to help Aaron like ascend. And I don't know if that was supposed to be like a real answer, or if that was just like Elo being like, damn, that would have been nice because I oopsie daisied myself into like the situation that I didn't consent to. I don't know. It just didn't make a whole lot of, like, we didn't get a real answer to it.
No.
Yeah. No. Big yikes.
It's a big yikes. It was just a way for them to have more conflict, and I don't respect that. But eventually, when we make it to Blenraiden, despite all of the turmoil, Kissen takes us to like her favorite goddess, I guess, named Anne. I do not know. Anne?
I think it's Anne. I'm pretty sure that's how they say it in the audiobook. And I was like, really?
Just Anne.
No.
Just Anne.
Seriously?
Anne is a water goddess, and she's pretty chill. She doesn't seem like very violent. She like likes to heal people and, you know, take stuff that's valuable to them like a normal god. But she's like, I don't sully my hands with the blood of humans kind of a thing. So I guess that's why Kissen likes her. But she goes to Anne, and she's like, these fools need your help. I'm just here vibing. And Anne is like, that's offensive for some reason. She's like, you think I can't help you? What?
Yeah. That was weird.
Yeah, and then we have like a series of scenes where they're all kind of like making their deals with Anne to get the information they need. And they actually leave Elo alone to like make his deal in private, except Sketty eavesdrops in, and the way that I read it, it sounded to me like Kissen asked him to go eavesdrop on Elo. Okay, that's how you got. I found that despicable.
I did too.
I was so pissed.
Like, yeah, because this has also happened. Okay, timeline wise, this was this after, like, Kissen and Elo like have their moment?
No, it's before.
It's before.
You know what my gripe was with that is like it was just a creative way to reveal his like their conversation between Elo and what's her face, but we have a POV of Elo like a chapter later. Yeah. Why couldn't we just reveal their conversation in the POV?
Right.
Right.
And I think for me, what particularly sucked about this is, like, we get Kissen's POV when we're meeting Anne, and Elo is like, hey, can you give me some space? And there's, like, a line where specifically she's like, I decided to trust him, and she leaves. And then next chapter, no, you fucking didn't. Like, it totally would have been fine if Sketty had done that on his own, because he's a sneaky little conniver, and I didn't like him ever since he possessed Inara, so I could have been like, ooh, that's really annoying, but it kind of tracks for you, I guess.
Yeah.
But the fact that Kissen asked him to go, I'm like, ew, you all suck. Like, hello?
Yeah.
You don't trust him.
They're not likable. Yeah.
No, and also the payoff too, like, I had figured this entire book that Elo might, like, sacrifice himself.
Yeah.
Like, I thought that this was not some wild possibility. Like, the second that we find out that they need another heart or whatever, someone's gonna have to get sacrificed, I was like, oh, okay, it's gonna be Elo. Like, I didn't even think that he's gonna go to Kissen, he's gonna go to Inara. Like, so this, because that's, you understand his character is this noble character who loves Aaron at all, like,
that's what he's there for.
And so, yeah, I was like, this is not a big enough payoff to, like, have Sketty sneak in and to find out what we already know, or we already figured it happen.
Yeah, this is a perfect example of the miscommunication trope and when it just absolutely does not work. Because for everything they understand about Elo, there's no reason for them to jump to the conclusion that he's going to sacrifice one of them. Because especially, you could make the argument, Sketty is manipulative and conniving, so that's the most natural train of thought for him. Okay, but he can see Elo's emotions at all times, and him and Inara both constantly point out that it's just loyalty and honor the whole time. Yeah. And you don't have to be an honorable person to realize that sacrificing a random 12-year-old is not considered honorable. Like, you don't have to know Elo's backstory. Like, it was a jump that was made exclusively, like you said, Kaylee, to, like, out Elo's secret purpose and create that conflict between him and Kissen. And it just didn't make any sense, because she also then assumes he's going to sacrifice them. And I'm like, did the rest of the book, where we were supposed to be building a relationship and building trust, like, just not matter? Like,
right.
We're not even going to give him the chance to talk about what happened?
And it would be different if there was, because I guess the only reason why she does that, like, has Sketty go in there, is because she doesn't like that Elo wants to have this moment in private. But, like, of course he would. It's kind of as if he's asking for this giant favor. Like, this is probably, a pretty personal moment. So I get that, but he hasn't given them any other reason to doubt him. So
right.
Yeah.
I also feel like the location of all of this was really underwhelming. Like, this is in some hot spring pools. Like, they couldn't have gone to a cooler body of water, like a river or something.
A waterfall.
Give me a river, bro.
They're in robes. Like, I don't know. They're just supposed to be there chillaxing, and here they are talking to a god. Like, I just, it didn't hit.
He's so unserious right now.
So
just
unserious.
Posted up in his robes. Please end me so that I can save my friend.
End me.
My friend, my special friend. Yeah. So, and it's, like, on that note too, speaking of things that come out of nowhere, Elo and Kissen's entire, like, romance arc was so, and romance used kind of loosely, like, they hook up or whatever, for lack of a better term, at the end of the book. But I hated this. I actively hated this because one, I'm biased because, again, I was very pro Aaron and Elo romance. I thought that would have been a much more powerful and compelling reason for Elo's quest. I thought that it was clear there was some chemistry there. I thought that would make a lot of sense. And I love a little, like, well, I wasn't really looking for romance in this book, but even then, I like a little subplot. That's fine. But there just wasn't any chemistry there. There wasn't any. I didn't believe that this was dynamic was there. So yeah,
no,
very weird.
Yeah, I felt the same way. I did see this coming because there were a lot of, like, really heavy-handed like, it was so poorly written that that's probably why it was easily missed, because it was literally just like, Elo says something, Kissin blushed, and I was like, oh no, not this, surely not this. And like, you know, them trying to have like this banter with each other that's like just not written well because the dialogue is really stiff, and like there's no chemistry, there's no reason they really would like each other, because like really all that Elo says about Kissin is like, she's strong, and you're like, so true. And Kissin says about Elo, she's like, he's quiet, and you're like, yeah, that's true. And then Kissin confronts him about the reveal that Sketty did, and she's like, you're gonna sacrifice us, you'll have to fight me to the death. And then he's like, I ain't gonna sacrifice you, I'm gonna sacrifice myself. And then she completely shifts and she's like, no, you can't sacrifice yourself, we'll find another way, I can't bear to lose you.
And right before they have intimacy, she says, I'll give him something to live for.
Yeah.
And it's so cringe. It's so cringe. And I did not like it. It gave me the ick.
It's so embarrassing.
And this was just a way, literally just a way for the author to say that this book had romance in it. That's what it felt like. Yeah. Because people like romance. People like to read books with the romance. So it's like, of course she's going to throw in a little bit, but it doesn't have to be thrown in. Like, you can have a book with no romance. That's totally fine.
Right. I was completely content, like, even with my other qualms of the story. Like, I actually kind of was vibing with not having it. Like, I do enjoy it, but I was like, yeah, we're just on a quest. You know, this is what we're focusing on. Like, because at the beginning of the book, we have Kissin, like, you know, clearly, like, flirting with this bartender that one time. Is kind of fun. Like, I thought, like, Aaron and Elo might have, like, at least, like, there might be a spark there, so that could be what's guiding his quest. But even if it's just like these little, like, hints of like, okay, this is part of their lives, but you know, this isn't going to be like a main plot in the story, cool, we'll just like have little hints of it. That was more than enough, like, without having a romance. We just didn't, there wasn't any chemistry there, in my opinion. But
yeah, and honestly, like, in the beginning when Elo is like selling his little baked goods or whatever, there's a particular guy that comes to buy bread every day, and he like always invites Elo to breakfast the next day because his daughter wants to marry Elo, and Elo is like so not interested, like not even considering it. That is also what led me to believe, like, oh, okay, Elo is a little gaby and he's in love with Aaron, and like that's cute, and I love that for him, like that's very sweet. And then even Kissin directly, like in this moment, she's like, are you in love with Aaron? And he's like, how dare you even suggest that? Not everything is about sex, unless you want to make it sex. And then they do, and it's like, what is happening? Yeah.
And I like, obviously, like, you know, I would totally be here for a bi king. It's just like, I just didn't see that they had any, or same with like Kissin, I just didn't see that they had any chemistry. So it just felt very random to me. So yeah,
tough sell, tough scene in general. I'm not here for this. No, thank you.
I was skimming low key.
I was like, beyond skimming.
I was like, no way.
I just read the very unfortunate dialogue that happened.
Yeah, the cringiest dialogue ever.
Also, the one thing I'll add to that too is, where the hell was Inara in all this? Like, did they just, because they made this big show all the time of being like, we can't leave Inara behind, blah. I'm like, because I think it also implies that Kissin then wakes up, and that's when she sees that Elo's not there. So I'm assuming that like they were next to each other too, like throughout the night, like when they're sleeping and stuff. So I was also like, where's the kid at? Did y'all this is not, maybe I'm missing something.
So when Kissin realizes that Elo is going to sacrifice himself, she says that she pulls him like a couple rooms away or something, because this conversation is not for kids. And then they just like don't return for the rest of the night, and you're telling me like Sketty and Inara were just like, they're fine, you know, it's like cool. They were about to kill each other, but you know,
she's 12. She can probably put 2 and 2 together, right?
Right? Surely. I don't know.
Yeah, random. Yeah, very random.
Yikes. Just icky.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, changing the subject to something a little better, I guess, is Aaron's betrayal. So Elo meets up with the goddess Heseth to bargain for Aaron's life, basically. And the goddess Heseth is like a wild god, so he has to go where all the wild gods live because they all live in one place.
In the wild.
Yeah, in the wild.
In the wild.
Next door to where they were.
And Elo makes this bargain that he's going to give up his life for Aaron's, and then Aaron appears out of nowhere to reveal that he betrayed Elo, and this was all his big ploy to get Elo to give up his life so that Aaron could essentially ascend to be a god himself, like using the power of 2 fire goddesses. So that's a lot. He did this all for power, basically.
Yeah.
And this was one of the few parts of the book that I was actually kind of invested in, as much as I could be for not liking the book. I did think that I wanted a better reason for Aaron to betray Elo than just, like, he wanted power, because, okay, but why? Like, I wanted more reasoning there. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did like this twist. It made me like wake up a little bit in the sea of all the rest of whatever the fuck was going on. I was like, oh, okay, like now we're cooking with peanut oil. Okay, something's happening.
We're going.
And then it did. I was a little disappointed because Elo, I don't know whether this is right or wrong, but Elo basically immediately concludes that Hestra, whatever, one of the fire goddesses, and Heseth have basically influenced Aaron to make him act like this, the way that Sketty did with Inara and Elo. And for me, that takes away some of the fun, because I did kind of just want it to be like, no, he actually did just play you. Like, you got played. And also, when Sketty did it, it felt more like Sketty was pushing them towards a conclusion that they kind of already had, and maybe less so with Elo, but like, I don't know. Sketty's nudges felt more like, I'm confirming what you think, and that's the influence that I have, whereas like, if Aaron didn't really want power, I don't know, he shouldn't have been able to be influenced in this way, where he like fully turns on his best friend, like, but I was definitely interested in it, and I did think him manifesting as twigs or whatever was kind of weird. And then when the fight actually starts and Heseth is like, hey, Aaron and Hestra, y'all get out of here, I'll handle this, and then he's like, all right, and he like goes. I was like, what is happening right now?
And we talked about this earlier, but Maddie and I both pictured the gods as like holograms, which makes this all kind of funny because they're just like these holographic like characters, and they appear.
Yeah.
And, I don't know.
I don't know.
It's kind of comical.
It was kind of funny.
Yeah. I also didn't really I don't know, when we're finally realizing this twist too, and Aaron's like explaining everything, I don't know, it just felt very like, I did like the twist. I did like this twist a lot. I did not see this coming personally. I was also very invested, comparatively speaking, to the rest of the book. But I don't know, it felt a little like villain monologue-y to me, of just like, again, just, I think this is just like a kind of common theme with this book of just sometimes the way that we tell instead of show, you know, and I know that you're going to have a bit of that when you're in a character's POV, you're supposed to be in their mind, like, I get that, but I don't know, it was a little cringy, but
and too, like, so when Elo is talking to Heseth, he actively makes the deal, I will give you my life for Aaron's, and she's like, she even proclaims, to who? I don't know. She says, an offering has been made. Thank you. And so then she I guess goes to like take it. But then Keisin is able to stop the offering of Elo's heart from being taken. So now he just has like a mark. And then Elo still is alive by the end of it. I don't, there's no weight to saying like the offering has been made, the deal is done, and then being like, we can actually pause the deal, have like a whole long fight with this goddess, and she can't. The making the deal should be the point of no return. Like, Elo should be dead.
Yes, I 100% agree.
I took it as he had to kill himself. That's how I took it. Like, he was supposed to make that offering to her by killing himself. The promise had been made. That was my interpretation.
So he's basically like saying that this is what he's going to do. Like, he and she is accepting that as a reason. Okay,
fine. I can get behind that. But then is it not?
It wasn't fleshed out enough.
Like, he has to do it. Like, it just seems kind of fucked that he can be like, JK, Lamau.
It's a very dramatic moment for her to like say this. An offering has been made, and then I get what you're saying, Maddie, because it's like, even if that's how it works, it's very dramatic to say this thing, proclaim this thing, and then
it's like Aaron was never actually in any danger, because it seems like the goddess that gave him the heart was in on it the whole time, and so Aaron was never in danger. So I don't know really like the rules, but it seems like the deal was made under false circumstances. So can we get like a god lawyer out here to kind of review the terms and see, my client was not properly informed of the circumstances before he made the deal under duress? Hello?
A god United Nations.
I'm saying.
We need that. We need intervention here.
Elo needs better counsel, I guess, is what I'm saying. I don't think he did the best for himself.
Agreed.
And so then we launch into a whole fight with Heseth, where Kissin comes in, Inara comes in, Sketty's there too, just kind of vibing. And Heseth is the god that originally Kissin was meant to be sacrificed to, so this is very personal for her. And she's like, I'm gonna get my revenge. And so she's fighting Heseth, and she tells Elo, like, Ayo, I'm gonna sacrifice myself, y'all go on. And Elo is like, awesome, thanks for the romp last night, I'ma head out. Which I thought was weird. He's just like, all right, weird.
Like, he doesn't care.
He's like, there's a line in his POV where it's like, I could see in her eyes that a decision had been made. And I was like, brother, your decision was made too, and she still came to save your ass. But okay, men are gonna men, I guess.
He's just like, whatever, it's fine. Oh well.
Yeah, and so they head out, and Inara's like, oh, I feel sad about this, and he's like, pat, let's head on. And then Kissin is fighting Heseth, and back and forth, and then she ends up like grappling Heseth and launching them off of the cliff into the water, because she knows that a citizen hates Heseth because they've been battling, blah blah blah, for decades. And a citizen comes in, and he like disintegrates Heseth, and then he offers to save Kissin's life. And Kissin, the Godkiller, who previously told a citizen to fuck off and had decided that this was going to be her last thing, her arc has been completed. She's gotten revenge for her family. She's killed the goddess that killed her family. At this point, she says, you know what, I'm going to take the deal, brother. Save me.
For Inara.
Yeah. For Inara. So that's the that's the end. I don't know. It's just I don't know. I liked that she dove off the cliff with Heseth into the water. I like that.
That was cool. I did like that. Yeah.
I think she should have died.
It's very like
she should have died. Yeah. Just like every other character in every other book that we've read that should have died but didn't die. She should have died.
It was a perfect place. Elo didn't care enough about her to save her, so that's fine. He could move on. Her arc was completed.
He's taking care of Inara.
It would have been a badass bitch moment for a citizen to be like, I'm ready to save you, because he's water. This is why I'm doing this. I'm wiggling. I'm ready to save you, and her still be like, fuck you, and then perish. Like, that would have been cool.
That would have been cool, yeah.
I think that would have really brought it full circle. Also, one final side note before, I know that this is basically the end, but I do think it's worth mentioning, as we talked about some of the randomness, is like, remember So when we think Inara and Elo think that Kissen is dead, they're like, yeah, she couldn't have survived that, surely, right?
Yeah.
And they, when they're escaping, they run back into not only that knight that you know what I'm gonna say, the knight that like worked with Elo, but also that like couple that they were on the pilgrimage with, and they like help them escape and like provide them resources to escape. And it's just like, what did we did not need either of them to come back in the picture. Like,
it's honestly,
that was their purpose, that they served their purpose.
It's so funny, Abby, because like they're like, we need horses, and then they see 3 horses with no one around, and they're like, perfect, we've got horses. And then the couple comes up with another horse, and they're like, this horse can hold 2 people, and they're like, great. And then they take that horse and another horse.
I did not even notice that. I did not.
Like, I just don't, I feel like she was supposed to delete the line about finding the 3 horses, because like,
I think so, probably, yeah, because
yeah.
And then doesn't Elo say something to the knight where he's like, I kill people, good thing I kill people, or something like that? Doesn't he say something like that?
He does say that at some point. I can't remember if it's to Benjen, but he's like, it's something to the
maybe effect, it's internal.
Because Kissen always says like, I don't kill people, blah blah blah.
Right.
And Elo's like, essentially, unlucky for you, like, I kill people.
Right.
But I'm pretty sure it's Benjen, so I don't know.
Right, and then he doesn't kill Benjen.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he does say it in that moment.
For sure.
But he doesn't kill Benjen, and then he says to the couple, he's like, yeah, you guys should go help that dude over there.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's another random part. It's like, we don't care about him. We don't need it to know what happens to him. Like,
but Elo is so honorable, Kaylee. He can't leave a man down. Even when they knock him out the first time, they're like, oh, he'll be discovered like really soon. So it's like not really even dangerous for him to be like knocked out here. And you're like, okay. I get it.
Yeah,
I
whatever.
get it.
Yeah.
Sure.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I don't know. As far as Kissen and the Heseth fight, I will say, this felt like, to me, the book was, let me rephrase. This part of the book was worth reading. This was the only part, okay? It was like the last 12% of the book was the only part that was worth reading, because we have the twist and then the kiss and fight and blah, blah, blah. It was finally interesting. But the whole book, I was kind of waiting for Kissen to reveal some kind of powers or special something from being like the child of a god, because that's kind of the premise that we're given. And like, she had sharp teeth, allegedly. So like, I was kind of waiting, and then because wait, listen to this. She had the sharp teeth, but then she has gold teeth, and I was like, oh, maybe she got them all pulled, and she got like a grill or something, so that because she's rejecting all of her godness, you know?
Yeah.
But no, there was none of that. She just straight up was like, I'm gonna sword Heseth to death. And so I was a little like, damn, I wish she would have had some cool like Katara.
I don't power this show. Yeah.
Anything. I don't know. Yeah,
like a big reveal. Yeah,
it would have been fun.
and
yet here we are. So as if this episode wasn't spicy enough the whole time, let's move on to what everyone comes to the pod for. We've got our hot takes and our pour overs. I'll start. So for my pour over, honestly, I don't think this book will really ever re-enter my mind again after we end this episode. I have not a lot of, I have a lot of feelings about it, but they're not positive. But the premise of the gods, I'm really into. I really like the concept of all the bunch of gods. I think the general like setup was really good, like having the old wild gods and then these like newfangled, gods that come in and they help the people, because we're kind of moving away from like wild gods being needed, and now they just need like, merchant gods and stuff, and the wild gods being like a little grumpy about it. I think that makes a lot of sense and like was interesting. We just didn't get a lot of it, so that will probably remain in my head as something that's cool. and that I'll consider thinking about occasionally. And then for my hot take, Kissin is a funny character written by an unfunny author. Okay. Kissin is supposed to be snarky and like a bad bitch and like takes no shit, and she can't. And it's not her fault. The author does not have this in her to imagine a character that can do this and like actually pull it off. The jokes that Kissin makes are so embarrassing and cringy. Y'all, when I tell you, in the beginning of this book, like the first 20 pages, we learn that Kissin's horse's name is Legs, and that she named it Legs because she thought it was funny that the horse had more legs than she did. Okay.
Which, like, a horse, if you
maybe
consider...
has 6 legs.
You know?
Points were made.
I hope that's true.
Points were made.
There's just so many
Points
cringy moments. There's like, at the end of like one of the chapters, which is like the first time that I realized that we were gonna have like a forced Kissin Elo romance. Kissin has put together that Elo, you know, is a knight, and she says like, oh, I hope we don't run into any knights, because they're always trouble. And then the chapter ends, and it's like, oh my god, this is like fan fiction that I wrote when I was in like 6th grade, and I thought I ate the end of that chapter, you know. And so
definitely fall
Kiss
flat.
is just held back.
Yeah. Again, and I know that this came up with Gideon the Ninth. I think a lot of people really love it, but I have seen some people I think have different feelings on like Gideon's kind of like, again, this like sassy character and whether or not her humor really hits. For me, that character does, but not as much with Kissin. But yeah,
it's tough. It's tough.
I agree. It's a hot take. I agree.
Yep.
Okay, so my pour over. Well, I'm still pouring over the God of Broken Sandals.
I loved him.
Give me a book. Give me a book about that. I want to hear a short story. I want to hear more about the God of Broken Sandals, because who doesn't hate when your sandals break? Like, that's happened to me. It's horrible.
Universal experience. Yeah.
I'm sort of kidding, but once I finished this book, it left my brain, and I will not be thinking of it ever again. So.
But actually, Kaylee, I would be so down for a collection of like little short stories about all these like little hyper specific gods that just get created when people have these issues. Like, it would be so cute.
It would be. It really would be.
Good idea. Yeah.
My hot take, I think we've kind of talked about this, but the characters had so much potential to be interesting, and yet not a single one of them was. So yeah, we didn't get an ounce of personality from anyone. That's my hot take.
I wish I could argue with you, but you're simply correct.
This is the only episode we've ever agreed on, Maddie.
Yeah, it's Oh my god, we're coming together. Thank you, Hannah.
Oh god. Oh Lord. So okay, my pour over. Kind of reiterating what you had said, Maddie. I do like the general concept of this book, particularly the gods, the relationship between the gods, their shrines, their loyal followers. You know, what brings about a god. Like, it is sad that so much of it didn't hit for us, because there's such a cool concept. I really did like that. So I think about that a little bit, because it's really cool. It's a cool little world. But yeah, so there's that. And then I guess for my hot take, not super hot take because we're all on the same page, but get rid of the multiple POVs. There's too much telling instead of showing, I think, in this book. And I think a lot of that is we don't get to really develop the relationships and trust and things like that between these different characters, because there's too much heavy reliance on the individual POVs and just explaining away their inner thoughts and feelings, I guess. So I wish it'd be kept through, even just like going through Kissin's POV and showing us the other character stories and growth through her perspective as a Godkiller would be cool. An unlikely pairing, you know, that kind of thing. And I wish that's how it had been done. So
whose POV did you find the most boring?
Probably Sketty's.
Really? I did kind of like Sketty's because I liked seeing him descend into god madness. It was at least a little interesting to see him justify influencing people. I think Inara's was so boring because I know she's 12. She just kept whining about her family, and I was like, I don't care.
Yeah, I like her character. Like, I like that idea of a character, but I didn't really care to have her POV.
Yeah.
You know?
I don't like her idea of a character because, like, I kind of touched on this before we started recording, but I think all the characters were written the exact same. And so for her to be 12 and to be written the same as a 26-year-old, I wasn't into it. I didn't like it.
Yeah. I really don't like kids being included as main characters because they're either written so mature that they don't act like kids, so what's the point? Or if they're actually written like kids, they just end up being kind of like annoying and like a hindrance to plot progression. Unless like the whole story is like kids. Like if you're talking about like a teen novel or like a preteen novel or something like that. But like in this context, she's traveling with like 2 near 30-year-olds. I don't know. It's just kind of weird.
It is kind of weird.
At least make her 16. I don't know, man.
That's what an older teenager, I could see it a lot better, I think. Yeah, agreed.
All right. So before we go, let's all go over our ratings and our favorite parts of the book. So I'll go first. I originally rated this 2.8 out of 5, but after this talk, I'm dropping it to a 2. I wanted so badly to love this book, but I was bored. I didn't care about the characters, like I mentioned earlier. I liked the prologue, and then the ending was okay, but I didn't like the entire middle of the book. And I think I hated it, actually. And the only reason it's not a 1 is because I didn't DNF it, mostly for the pod. I think I might have DNF'd it otherwise. But a 1 for me is a DNF, so. And then my favorite part was the prologue.
Yeah, I have similar feelings as you, Kaylee. Originally, I gave it a 3 because I did like the ending the most. And this always happens with me. I give it like a 1-star curve immediately after finishing the book. And then if I think about it like 2 weeks later, I'm like, it probably was like more like a 2. So my real rating is a 2 of 5. I actively disliked this book. I had beef with many lines. My Kindle notes are lit up with hater energy, and respectfully, and I would have absolutely DNF'd it if not for the pod. Multiple POVs is like my pet peeve. So the instant I texted the group chat, actually, the instant I turned the page after Elo's first POV and I saw that we were getting a POV of the fucking rat god, I was like, I can't do it. I can't do it anymore. Let
not
me
the rat
out.
god.
The
not
rat
the
god
rat
for
god.
real. So yeah, it's a 2 for me, I guess. I would say I get why people like it, but I don't, with the utmost love, light, and respect. But good for you if you like it.
I'm sorry.
It's fine.
The rat god is just throwing me. Anyway,
He was, man, with antlers. With antlers, different, quirky. My favorite part was when they were walking through Blen Raiden or whatever, and we were like getting these little moments with all these like little puny ass gods, and they were like, "Hello, do you have sandals? Hello, would you like safe refuge?" That was really fun. I really wish we had leaned more into that aspect of it, of like these desperate little hungry little gods, and some of them are like nicer than others, and you know, trying to get at you, and like the little danger of like, ooh, what's this god kind of a thing. That was really fun. That was the most fun I had the whole book. So thank you for those 4 pages, Hannah.
they were cute. My pour over is going to be you saying the rat god. I don't think I'll ever forget that. Oh my god. Okay. Anyway, so my rating, I think I'm gonna maintain a 3 out of 5 on this one. I still
You're the nicest of all of us, as always.
I think I did like the world a lot. I'm not sure if I would have finished it out of just kind of being bored. I wouldn't have like rage quit, but I probably would have just been like, all right, I'm gonna move on to something else. I like, there was parts of it I liked. I couldn't give it above a 3, I don't think. Which is disappointing. I was very excited for this, just to let it be known. But yeah, I'll say 3 out of 5. And then my favorite part, I did really like when Sketty took over like Inara and was like in control of Inara, and the conflict going in between them, and like trying to unblock herself to talk to him, and then her eventually being like, fuck you, I'm taking my power back. Like that whole interaction was intriguing to me. So yeah.
Sketty, hashtag Sketty for villain 2024.
Sketty. Rat God villain.
Rat God villain. Let's go.
New fave villain dropped. Just kidding. He's not complicated enough for that, but yeah.
No, maybe one day. Maybe on book 6. We'll see.
Yeah, perhaps.
We will not see. We will not.
We won't. Yeah, that's true. Y'all can see. We will not be seeing.
I cannot. I pretend I do not see it.
Okay. If everyone has said their piece about this lovely cinematic masterpiece, that is all the tea that we have on Godkiller. Please watch out for next week's episode. We will be ranking our favorite book boys and pitting them against each other and telling each other why we love who we love. Will Xaden make the cut? Who can say? You'll have to tune in to find out. You can also stay up to date with the latest tea on Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube by following us at Spill the Novel Tea on all of the things. And while you're there, please let us know. Did you like this book? Are we crazy? What is your hot take? Are you with us? Are you against us? We would like to know. Please. Thank you so much. Okay, we will see you next week.
Bye.